Hello kitties, it's Terrible Triple Feature time again. This week we're going to revisit an older one that I had done a write-up for, but I never did a video, so odds are this one's new to you. That's right, this week we revisit the You Made a Children's Cartoon Out of What? Triple Feature? These are cartoons, children's cartoons, things that played during the mornings when I would get ready for school, or conversely, after school. That were based on R-rated films that really, why would you make this into a cartoon? It just doesn't, there's really very little about it that says kid-friendly, let alone sustainable episodic fare. You have to understand about the 80s that any film that was even remotely successful would get a kid's cartoon to tie into it. I'm not really sure if it was because like the kids couldn't see it and then this would be like a way for them to see it, you know, or if they were just bugging everybody to see it. But we would get stuff like the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. Michael J. Fox got two with Back to the Future and a Teen Wolf series. It kind of trickled off in the 90s, even though we did get three separate Jim Carrey cartoon spin-offs. There was an Ace Ventura show, a The Mask, and a Dumb and Dumber cartoon spin-off even. But that's kind of trickled down. Oh, there was also Men in Black. Came out in the 80s. And they always have to be, you know, off somehow. Like, they're not the exact same plot because they can't do the exact same plot. Because one, kids can't handle it in a cartoon show, and two, we have to be able to sustain the premise for probably like 20 to 39 episodes per season. The first time around, we did Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice, and the Toxic Avenger. But doing a bit more research, I have found better ones, and so this time, the You Made a Children's Cartoon Out of What? Version .2 is Rambo, Robocop, and still the Toxic Avenger. This one came about, it's not really based off of the First Blood, the first film featuring Rambo John Jay, played by the awesome Sylvester Stallone. The Rambo Force of Freedom came about more as a result of First Blood Part 2. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Rambo First Blood Part 2. Pretty sure that's the way the title goes. And it caused some controversy because it was the first cartoon based on an R-rated film. And oddly enough, the parents and the writers of the cartoon had the same concerns, which is how do you turn the painful, post-traumatic, stress-disordered tale of Rambo into a kid's cartoon? And the writers were told to do what, you know, everybody would expect them to do. Completely ignore the first two movies. This came out afterwards. So Rambo is, no reference is ever really made to Rambo's time in Vietnam or that time when he blew up a town in the Pacific Northwest. But he is an unstoppable fighting force of American liberty against General Warhawk and his evil gang of bastards. It basically follows the formula of just about every other 80s cartoon, G.I. Joe, Mask, Transformers, where it's just every week these guys are fighting those guys. And nobody's dying, like every other Rambo film, where every other person dies. Rambo only uses violence as a last resort, and never kills anybody deliberately. Yeah, it's not the same guy, but it's the kid-friendly version of it, and this is why we get Rambo on a lunchbox and an action figure line in the 80s. You have to understand that the 80s were a miraculous time in which heretofore unheard of misunderstandings of the point of pieces of art were possible, like Rambo being, you know, the shining light of American freedom. Isn't even the worst one. I mean, it's almost as bad as, say, the president of the United States running for re-election and calling out Bruce Springsteen to see if he'll let him use "Born in the USA" as his campaign song. Ron, we miss you. Then we have Robocop, which I'll grant you, it has a very, like, kids are gonna love this idea because Robocop. I mean, it's Robocop, but you have to keep in mind that Robocop the movie isn't just a silly action movie. It's one of the more biting satires of 80s yuppie culture. Our main character is murdered within the first 20 minutes and is treated like a pile of meat that they can do whatever they want with, and they decide to turn him into a robot, unleash him on an unsuspecting populace, and we get to watch his bitter struggle to remember who he is in this, 200 pounds of metal horribleness. But the kids love him because he twirls his gun around. And, once again, 80s cartoon, so nobody's actually dying. They're seemingly, blue laser stun guns, just like everything else. And this is what people watched. I mean, it's really surreal to watch it because, like, Lewis and Robocop are just walking around like nothing's different. It's just I'm a robot now. I mean, you don't really get that kind of subtlety in a children's cartoon in general, but why would you pick so complicated a topic other than, the normal to sell toys and to make money, which I assume they did because the show ran for a pretty good while. Whereas those two clearly knock out the more comedic and friendly Ghostbusters and Beetlejuice. Nothing is worse than making the Toxic Avenger into a kid's cartoon. The Toxic Avenger, in the first 20 minutes of the film, there is drug abuse, casual sex, weightlifting, steroid use, murder, thrill killing, and a man running down the street on fucking fire. But you know what? Playmates is killing it with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so we need our own guy. So we'll turn the Toxic Avenger into the Toxic Crusader. That's right, same character. Kid-friendly, not kid-friendly. See the difference? The difference is neon. The Toxic Avenger, though, the Toxic Crusaders, this was whereas Robocop and Rambo ran for quite a number of episodes. The Toxic Crusaders only lasted 13 because I think people were getting wise to it at that point, and it's just, you just can't turn the Toxic Avenger into a cartoon. It is one of the most delightfully reprehensible films ever made, but it is still one of the most delightfully reprehensible films ever made. You just can't do that as a cartoon. No matter how many mutant dogs and giant nose and or Jekyll and Hyde people you have. But the girl with the accordion was adorable. And I mean, the Toxic Crusader show did make some concessions. There's like less violence and almost no boobs. I mean, there are probably some boobs, but you would have to really look for them. But I liked that show. I watched the Toxic Crusaders. I didn't really watch Rambo or Robocop as much. I was more of a Beetlejuice and Ghostbusters guy. But comparatively, what were they? I mean, when you have to dump everything about your character except maybe the root premise of it to make a cartoon work, why make the cartoon? I mean, is the name recognition that much? I guess it is. But so that's this. That's you made a children's cartoon out of what revisited. Hopefully, I'll have something brand new for you next week. And until then, I'll see you. Doodles!